Morning. I'd like to welcome everybody to the annual meeting of the Board of Directors, CCIDA, Pneumonia Technology Incubator, 14 Central Avenue, Dunkirk, New York. We're streaming live via YouTube and Zoom. It's March 26th, 2004 at 10:34. Start with roll call. Gary Henry's here. Pam Hetzenrader. Here. Megan Sheffield Smith.
Here.
Stephen Thorpe.
Here.
Amy Harding.
Here.
Tom Harmon.
Here.
We've all had an opportunity to review the minutes that have been distributed. We have a motion to accept those minutes. Megan, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes have been approved. A few notes before we start getting into all the regular new business. The Audit and Finance Committee met with the auditors on March 9th, 2024 to review the 2023 audit. That's just a note. We'll be going over all that, but the Audit and Finance Committee did have a meeting. The Governance Committee had a meeting as well. That was just prior to this meeting. Went over some housekeeping details. Those have been recommended to the board. We'll be going over them at the board meeting as well. Part of your packets this morning, you've got several documents in a green folder. So make sure you take note of those. There's a bunch of information that you're going to have to fill out. The first thing is a confidential board evaluation. We're going to need completed and returned before you leave today. If you want to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you all have that in your materials. Please make sure you fill it out today. Place in that folder. Part of the Public Authority Law annual report, we need to tally up the evaluation. Please make sure you, before you leave, test that.
That report has to be turned in this week, so we have to have them. There's a couple other forms, your financial disclosure form. You need to get that filled out and returned to the county. And then also, there's a copy of our mission statement and performance measurements in there as well. So make sure you take note of all that. We'll go ahead and get started in new business, amended and restated Weber Knapp resolution presented by Rich.
So in September of 23, the IDA board approved a loan to Weber Knapp, stock purchase of Weber Knapp to current employees. While we did discuss during the loan committee executive session, the board meeting, that the business was in imminent danger of closure and moving because of the equity group that we're looking to buy it was going to move it. We did not paper that in either the minutes nor the resolution. So Dave will talk a little bit about that when we get to the audit, but we are amending that resolution. Look at the resolution, you'll see it in the amended resolution. There's a whereas the business was in danger of imminent closure by probable sale to non-local competition. So we just paper that up in the amended resolution. It'd be good to go. Now, also will respond in the audit. Taxes. Mark, anything else you want to say?
Any questions from any of the board members on that? So it's something we discussed, but we just want to make sure we had it. Dan Hetzenrader, can you do business A1?
Sure. Resolution amended resolution number 09-26-23-01 of the members of the County of Stockholm Industrial Development Agency to approve an LTEC EDA loan to Weber Knapp.
Thank you. And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and do a vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Dan Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Megan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Amy Harding.
Aye.
Tom Harmon.
Aye.
So the amended resolution. Next, we'll move into new business B, the 2023 audit by Dave and Justin.
Thanks, Gary. I'm Dave DeTana, and this is Justin Heisman. We're going to walk you through the 2023 audit. As Gary alluded to, we had a nice meeting with your audit committee, Gary and Sagan, along with members of management to go through these documents in really good detail. In addition to that, we also had a meeting, I think, in the early part of February with the same group. And that was really an opportunity for us to sit down with and your audit management prior to the start of our audit. And the intent of that meeting is really to talk about the planning of the audit itself and also talk about any significant events that occurred in the course of the year. So wanted to point that out as well. So the intent of today's meeting is really to kind of give you a high level overview of your audit, which is the biggest packet in front of you. There's also two other documents. One is what we refer to as a management letter. And then lastly, there's what's called a governance letter as well. And it's addressed to the board of directors. So Justin's going to walk us through some of the high points for the 2023 audit.
Okay, so if you want to start with the larger document and turn to page 1, you know, the whole point of us coming out is to provide our audit opinion. And this is our independent auditor's report, which provides an opinion. It is a clean opinion. Point out this is a financial audit, not an internal control and fraud audit. Well, we do have to consider those things. This is really just focused on the numbers, especially this letter. Then if you want to go to page, I believe it's 8 or 9. Let's go to page 9. We'll talk about how some of the funds give you a high level. So the IDA itself ended up making $2.4 million. So what really drove that are two things really. The Talcott Street forgiveness of that debt. You had a $2 million debt associated with that. They forgave it. The remainder of it after you wrote off what you provided them. So that was a $900,000 increase to your bottom line. And then the remainder of it is made up from the North County purchase. The way that works, it's kind of interesting that you have a grant, it's a reimbursable item. So you spent money, money's going right out. But because that is a fixed asset or a balance sheet item, it doesn't have a corresponding expense yet. So, it bumped up your bottom line, $1.8 million when you bought that land. That will eventually be. The Chautauqua revolving loan fund, that lost $30,000. That's the second column in. That is really your bad debt expense or recovery. We'll talk about that when I go through all the funds. I'll talk a little bit about what we changed there, what we worked with Taylor and Rich on. The LTEC fund, that made $157,000, and that is because the interest rates coming in and the adjustment for bad debt in that fund was not as significant as other funds, so that actually made some money. EDA CARES fund lost $312,000. Conversely to that LTEC fund, this one had quite a large adjustment to the bad debt. So that's really what's causing that loss. Without that loss, you would have made similarly a little over $100,000. And then CREDC made $116,000, but 80 of it is what's a bad debt recovery. So we actually lowered your allowance. So then that bumps up your bottom line. That's what drove that. So I'll talk a little bit about the reserves here and what we did. So we worked with Rich and Kayla. There's a new accounting guideline out called CECL, where it's talking about expected credit losses. And in the past, it was all kind of past-driven results, and now it's trying to combine the past and what could happen potentially in the future, as kind of looking both directions. So I found a Federal Reserve document that kind of built that up, and with Rich's and Kayla's help, we put it together. We looked at 10 years of write-off history, and then we also put all of your portfolio data, every loan into this, and it came out with the new approved method for reporting credit losses, expected credit losses or allowance losses. And it came out with about 20% loss. What is expected in the future. And, looking at it, the LTEC historically was a little over 19. The EDA is only at like 13 or 14, but that's really just due to the lack of history there. It probably would over time
behave more like the LTEC fund. And, you know, when we look at what we've historically done here at CCIDA, we've done 15% plus 100% of the, you know, loans. So if a loan hasn't been being paid, you'd reserve that full amount, and then you'd reserve 15% of the remaining balance. Really, when you looked at it that way, it worked out to be close to 20%. You know, it kind of balanced out with historically what you've done. So really, I think that's kudos to Rich and Kayla and what they were doing in the past is pretty accurate for what this new methodology would calculate as well. So the only thing we changed this year is just to make it a little less complicated. It just is a flat 20% for all the funds. That is 20% of your reserve balances are being reserved for at this point in time. Any questions on that?
Only other thing I was going to mention is again, the impact on the Telcat Street property. So what occurred ultimately is the fact that you sold the property, received proceeds. Okay, so on your books in the prior year, you had fixed assets. Okay, and so those were basically taken off. They were no longer applicable. And so ultimately there was about $118,000 of net book value that got recorded as a loss. Okay. In addition to that, you had a loan that had been on your books for a long period of time from Chautauqua County. That totaled $1 million. In addition to that, over the year, there's been accrued interest that has been accumulating on the principal of the amount that was owed. Either the $2 million nor the accrued interest have been paid until the sale of the Telcat property. Ultimately, you received proceeds, I think, of a little more than $1.3 million. So those came in, were turned over to the county to pay off the debt. And then the difference between the loan amount and the accrued interest basically forgiven. And the way that gets reflected on your financial statement, like the income, really paper, it's not, and the cash went back to the county, but that loan that was on your books basically got forgiven for whatever it was, and totaled about $978,000. And so a lot of moving parts there, but ultimately, you know, for your reporting purposes, it had a pretty significant impact on your bottom line. The other significant event that occurred that really impacted the cash of the IDA was the fact that you did get a lot of service agreement cash from the county that you're working on developing the properties. And so when you look at your cash balances, where they were in 2023 versus 22, significantly higher, not necessarily affecting your bottom line because most of that is being reflected as unearned revenue. So that revenue will get reflected when you continue to develop the properties. Okay, so when you incur the expense or the potential fixed asset, that's when the revenue will generate into your income statement. Okay, so a lot of that will happen, I believe, in 2024 and going forward as well, 25. Okay, so just to give you a little background on that as well.
Okay. Then we'll get into footnotes. They start on page 13, but I'm going to turn to 17 and kind of segue from what you were just saying. Note 6, kind of an important footnote to talk about the unearned revenue. And each paragraph here going into page 18 is one of those projects or one of those programs that you've received cash for. You haven't spent all of it yet. So it's a nice narrative format, but each program out there is what bucket the IDA or CREDC it falls under paying, and you know, it gives a nice description of what is left to spend. Page 19 starts the notes receivable. You know, you have $20 million in notes outstanding to businesses, so that's just a significant footnote to know about. Every single loan you have out there, it's documented here with the interest rate, maturity date, and balance as of the end of the year.
You look at your again, I think Justin mentioned this new way of looking at the reserves, evaluating past experience. When you look at your current experience, 2023 was a great year for your loans. You really had most of your customers paying their balances throughout the year. Very few exceptions. It might have been one of the best years you've ever had as far as collection. So really nice year. And again, this is a great footnote that shows all the different activities, all the different loans.
Then, moving on, want to turn to page 24. There's two footnotes here, note 17 and 18. Those are your projects that you receive administrative fees for. And you know, if you go back to past financial statements, that note 17 just labeled wind farm and had a lot of activity. Note 18 is just not wind related projects that you help develop. My understanding is we'll have more notes kind of like this coming due as solar projects start coming on. But you know, a lot of revenue was generated for the IDA through those notes, or those projects. That these footnotes discuss all that. And I think you know, it's not as material as it has been in the past few years, but it's still, you know, pretty significant for the IDA. And then if you want to turn to page 25, note 23 discusses the sale of Talcott Street, as Dave said, and it kind of gives the actual dollar figures, how it works out, how the loss on the property was developed, how the gain on the forgiveness of debt was developed. Okay, so then there are two more letters that are required to be provided to you, and they start on page 32. And that one is called the Government Auditing Standards Letter. So because you're technically a government entity, we're required to look at some of your internal controls and compliance related to those government auditing standards. And then on page 34, there's a letter for uniform guidance, a single audit. And that is because you receive over $750,000 federal aid. So really what's driving that and why you have to have a single audit is the EDA CARES loan. That is federally based. The LTEC loan used to be, it is defederalized now, so that one no longer is affecting the single audit. And then when you get things like block grants, CDBG, community block grants, those type of projects quite often will affect your single audit letter. So this year we had to look at your EDA CARES fund for the single audit, and there's one finding on both of these letters. And that's the resolution. Really all that finding is saying is the loan compliance requirements very clearly state that you know, those loans are not to be used for stock purchases unless that it is eminent and it's needed to keep that business in your area. So that's the reason we had you rework that resolution, is to make sure, you know, you're noting that exclusion. You're noting that, yeah, this is what we did that for. This is why we have a loan that, you know, is really for a stock purchase.
Any questions on that? And it was, you know, I think the key compliance item was the documentation. I think, you know, having the resolution that echoes the exclusion and writing, I think that would be the component and address the finding and kind of read the response, because these are dated today and your board motion was today, kind of saying really addressed finding it, and that's kind of how it's all portrayed.
And my understanding is there may be another loan like that coming, so, you know, make sure that wording is in that future.
Yeah.
So then we have two other letters we provide you. I'll start with the one it started Dear Audit Committee at the top. This is the governance letter. It's the 2-page document. So this is document for you as the board, you know, just communicating, you know, how the audit plans, if there are any issues, if there are any past audit adjustments. So, you know, there's nothing really to note here other than on the back page, there is one audit difference that we've always had here, and it's just that the IDA chooses that to not record accrued payroll, so pay that's owed to people for after year end, you operate the payroll more on a cash basis. You know, it is a $2,000 back to your financial statements this year. So by not recording it each year, it's just really the change in that what that accrued balance would be, would affect your financials. It is a minimal $1,000 change.
I was just gonna mention, there is a new accounting standard that you implemented. Last year, if you remember, there was a new standard as well on leases, which actually had a significant impact on your financial reports because you do have leases that ultimately had to be reflected on the IDA's balance sheet. The new standard in the current year was very similar to leases, but it was specifically carved out related to IT arrangements, which, you know, would be more subscription type based agreements that you would have in place that would be long-term. Again, we evaluated that and there wasn't really anything that we had of substance. So, really didn't have an impact on your overall.
And then the last letter is the mantra letter. And this has a comment on it. These are best practices. They don't rise to the level of finding, but it's talking about those county service contracts. And if you were to look at past financials, actually, many of those agreements were called grant income. And we made the change this year because in the past, they were often identified and treated as something under the federal guidelines. And, in discussions with Rich and Kayla and the county, and, we determined that the way the county's sending you the money is they're looking at you as more of a contractor rather than a pass-through recipient or a sub-recipient of that grant. So if you're a sub-recipient, you have to follow all the compliance guidelines. If you're a contractor, those guidelines it's really on the county to make sure that you are not going to nefarious spend the money. It's, the onus is more on the county in that situation, calling you a contractor. But we're just pointing that out to you, that language, and that it's important. And you want to make sure you're writing your agreements to reflect that, but then also knowing that here at the IDA, you still have, maybe use your responsibility to make sure you're meeting those compliance requirements. Much as you may not have to follow them for a single audit report or a guideline. Those compliance requirements still are in place. They should be adhered to, because ultimately, if the county were ever questioned on it, you would then be questioned on it. Any questions?
Just wanted to thank Dave and Justin. They did a great job. They know this inside and out for a long time. Throughout the year, they're always available for change, and I call them all the time. Thank you very much.
Excellent job, and the audit and finance committee, we went over this even more detail, at meetings. So, just the information that's there, take the time to just flip through there. It's, point it out. It's every loan, it's every transaction, all the things that we're doing, and so a lot of detail, and we really appreciate all the effort.
Yeah, when you look at the report, if you pulled it out 10 years ago, I mean, the amount of activity that you have going on is substantial. I mean, you have obviously, now you've got multiple loan funds that are significant. You've got a significant amount of activity with these service contracts where you're developing properties. A lot of activity and a lot of good stuff going on. So it's a really nice report, and congratulations to everybody involved, and Rich and Kayla on nice financial report. And Mark as well. So good job, everyone.
We need to have a motion to accept the audit, or
Yeah.
do we need somebody move the resolution to accept the audit as presented? Megan, and second. Tom for second. Go ahead and vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Dan Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Megan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe. Amy Harding.
Aye.
Tom Hart.
Aye.
So the audit has been accepted. And we appreciate all your work and all that you've done.
Thank you. And we're what we'll do is, you'll notice they're all state preliminary, but they're really final. We're just gonna take the stamp off. And then Rich and Kayla, so they can upload it to the Eric's website
Thank you.
by March 31st, and you'll be in compliance. So, thank you.
We're off Friday, so this afternoon. will be great.
One thing to know while they're up is they have to do all of this so that we can send this report in by March 31st. And we engage them in early February, so it is a really quick turnaround. Robert.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good meeting.
Next, we'll move into new business C, Link Products and Services presented by Rose.
Thank you. Back on March 14th, the loan review committee recommended for approval the following requests. Link Products and Services, a small disadvantaged Native American certified New York State MWB business specializing in business development, technical sales, supply service for machine tools, and manufacturing equipment, supply service for raw materials, and subcontract services for manufacturing. That began in 2020, is looking to purchase Universal Tool Company located at 4529 Route 60 here in New York. Link is in the process of purchasing the assets of UTC, a full-service production CNC business focused on injection tooling, die, and contract manufacturing services with consistent revenue and a path to profitability under ownership of Link Products and Services. Link is poised to grow organically with current customers, the addition of skilled machine operators and machine, as well as new sales outreach, focusing on their customer and employee relationships, while maintaining a financially strong company will allow them to become a premier employer in their industry, bringing in customers and work. So Link Products and Services has a total amount of $225,000, split between machinery and equipment and working capital, $42,075, $180,905 in working capital. Again, the purpose of the request is for the acquisition of Universal Tool Company, the business and all assets. UTC currently has 3 employees. Link plans on keeping those existing employees, hiring 2 more within 30 days, and then adding approximately 20 over the next 5 years. Interest rate for the request is at 4% for 7 years, 6-month interest only, and then fully amortizing over 7 years for both the company loan and local capital. Link has secured financing with another financial institution, so we would be second in collateral for mortgage, generally used to filing an alternative rate accounts receivable, as well as personal guarantees of Jason Roman and Vincent Fanara are looking to waive life insurance. I do have Jason on Zoom who can answer any questions, or if you'd like to have them talk a little bit more about the project. Jason, are you there?
I am. Good morning.
Good morning. If you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about your plans for the transition.
Yeah, so one of the main purposes, and again, I've got a heart just like the folks at UTC, Nicole Segru, Warren Piazza, Scott Sando, to keep people employed in our area. I mean, we're already struggling as it is. This is a worthy cause to keep this business afloat. I know for sure Nicole and Warren, who's recently put on hospice, if you haven't heard, just some prayers for them as they go through that. To see this thing continue on beyond them. I know they've struggled for quite a few years financially and getting new sales in and all that kind of fun stuff. They approached me a year and a half ago for some help, and then more urgently, let's say the end of last year, November, December, because the closing was imminent. They were ready to liquidate and close the doors. And the purpose of us stepping in like this is we've got a great relationship with Nicole and company, and they'd be willing to basically allow us to buy them out of debt so they can walk away without having to go bankrupt, make sure they take care of all their secured debt, the trades, all that kind of fun stuff, and hand it over to someone, an entity that could breathe some new life into the business. So the intent is to take it, kind of keep the existing customer, which is singles, going. Targeted Petrice has been fantastic through this transition. Bring back some recently departed customers and blend in the Link customers. We've got a really nice, thing going with what we've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years, and try to then really transition the company into a blend of existing, which is the injection molding tooling and production manufacturing. We really need to get some jobs in there that would keep the lights on, constant, consistent revenue, so that we can grow this business moving forward. Very confident that the assets that are there, without any additional, immediate needs, will serve the purpose to get the UTC back on its feet, and the new blended, let's say, we'll probably call it Link Products and Services with a DBA of UTC of some kind. And over a period of 5 years, probably end up somewhere in the $4 or $5 million and 20 employee type of range. I think that's a nice size for that building in that spot. And it grow in a responsible fashion so that we're not, growing too fast. Growing too fast is kind of easy, but then it's really tough on cash, and we're going to try to avoid that at all costs. Great relationships with customers in my current realm of expertise and my past few lives professionally, that would they love small business, they love small disadvantaged businesses, and they love folks that have a passion for people. So customers are people, employees are people. That's something that both Vinny and I feel very strongly about. If we take care of them and make them successful, then we'll ultimately be successful in the process. Any questions?
Thank you, Jason.
Board doesn't have any additional questions. Megan, can you move business C2 for us?
Absolutely. Resolution 03-26-24-01 of the members of the County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency to approve an outside loan, EDA CARES Act funds, and/or CRLF loans to Link Products and Services LLC.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Oh, Gary Henry votes aye. Dan Hetzenrader?
Aye.
Megan Sheffield Smith?
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe?
Aye.
Amy Harding?
Aye.
Tom Harmon?
Aye.
And the resolution is unanimously approved. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Jason?
Thank you so much. Yep. Talk to you soon.
Briefly, when they were going through the audit, they pointed out we have $20 million loans out there. And so it's loans like this, these companies that keep these businesses in Chautauqua County, creates more jobs than what we currently have. It's just critical to our county. And sometimes with everything going on, it gets lost just how much everybody at the IDA is doing. And so just, reiterate, you're all doing a great job. One of you, and I, talk about 51 different projects last year, that's almost one a week going on. So, it's phenomenal what is able to be accomplished. But we've got several more to do today, so we'll move right into Erie Coast Solar, again, presented by Rosie.
Thank you. But before I get into the application, we do have Eamon Riley, the project manager for Erie Coast Solar, as well as Paige, buyer from Barclay Damon, their counsel. I do want to note before getting into the description of the project that the application that you originally reviewed has slightly, there is a slight amendment and council. Their funding sources, but the meat and bones of the project is. So I will be sharing, if we move forward with the public hearing, we have to do that application as well.
Rosie, can I add, it doesn't change the resolution because the description of the project is the same. So the draft resolution that was distributed is the one that we're voting on today.
Thank you, Sean. So Erie Coast Solar is a 2.2 megawatt AC solar farm located on approximately 30 acres in the town of Sheridan. Exact location is 3584 New Road in Sheridan. It is a it is a solar project that the town has approved through their town board meetings. They do have their special use permit, and they have agreed upon a host community agreement as well. So Erie Coast Solar has approached the IDA for a 20-year pilot assessment. We're looking at sales tax abatement and of course the property tax. No mortgage taxes being requested on this project. I do have Eamon again here on Zoom who can share his screen. Do you have a site plan, Eamon, that you'd be willing to share on the screen? And while you do so, Eamon, if you could just address if there is a decommissioning bond and site mitigation.
Sorry, let me just share my screen here. Thank you for your time today. Again, my name is Eamon Riley. I'm from Nexamp. This project is a 2.2 megawatt AC community solar installation in the town of Sheridan. Community solar, just for those who are unfamiliar, will supply energy directly to the local grid, the local distribution network. So all the energy produced by this project will stay local and serve local residents. As a community solar provider, we also have a fully in-house team, a subscription team, to help sign up community members within the local zone, which will allow them to access savings at no upfront cost to them. Additionally, all of the panels that we're using on this project are made in the USA, out of North Dakota. So we are active participant in this nation's effort to be able to have the capacity to create this energy and control the entire supply chain. So this project is an early entrant into the IRA's effort in that way. As was stated, we have signed a host community agreement already with the town and have our full special use permit. Along with that was submitted a decommissioning plan and decommissioning bond agreement. The bond is in the amount of $178,000, which is slightly above, I would say, what we have seen across the market. So there are definitely adequate funds there when decommissioning is triggered. That decommissioning agreement also includes New York State Department of Ag and Markets agricultural land guidelines adhered to it. So that will require us to adhere to a higher standard as far as removal of any equipment on the site and site restoration efforts. So we have already committed to that. Beyond that, I'm happy to answer any additional questions you might have.
I did neglect to say that the total project cost is $7.15 million. Total property tax exemption request is for $360,517, and the sales tax abatement is at $200. If there are no questions for Eamon, I will pass it on to Ellen to discuss.
Sure. This is the almost now standard due diligence resolution. Doesn't commit the agency to do anything. It authorizes and instructs staff and council to conduct the due diligence. And that would include the public hearing, going through SECRA to make sure that there's no adverse effect on the environment, and possibly holding a deviation hearing to the extent that the pilot that we negotiate is a deviation from the or UTEP, as most solar projects are. I will note just one other thing. This developer, we just closed the Martin Solar deal with them in the last week or so. So I would hope and anticipate that the documents would go fairly quickly and easily, now that it's been a well-worn path. So that's it. It's the standard due diligence resolution. After we do the public hearing and possibly a deviation, we would come back to the board for final approval before you're committing to anything.
Any other questions from the board? Steve, would you move resolution D2 for us?
Sure. Resolution 03-262402, due diligence resolution, preliminary agreement.
We have a second. Mary Henry votes aye. Dan Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Megan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Amy Harding.
Aye.
Tom Harmon.
Aye.
The resolution is unanimous.
Thank you, Eamon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eamon. Thanks, Paige.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now move into new business E, Tim and Edmund LLC, and by Carol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tim and Edmund LLC, owned by Tim Schultz and Ed Schultz. We reviewed this at the March 14th loan review committee, and they have sent it on for approval at this point. This is an LTEC loan. It's for $400,000. We have Community Bank is partnering on financing for us. Now, this loan is for the Fluvanna Avenue, the former Quality Markets. You're doing another 9,000 square foot upgrade on the building. And so actually the body of the loan is for $400,000. They've asked us to, for 4%. They've asked us to go along with 15 years, which coincides with the security on the loan is third lien mortgage behind our current second position, because they do have a loan with us right now. First position is bank financing on the real estate located at 245 and 255 Fluvanna Avenue, New York. There also is the same loan behind bank financing on assignment of rents. The personal guarantee of Edmund Schultz and they have asked us to waive the life term on both Tim and Ed. Are there any questions? Mark, would you like to say anything?
No, it's just,
Go ahead.
this is just a great, what a great project. Obviously, it involves the expansion of operations of their existing tenant. Old Plaza will now be full of activity. When you drive by there, you see all the cars, you can see more cars, more jobs. This is really a great thing. A lot of people have been involved. Good workers, so it's a success.
Comments, answer my question?
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
You want to speak to this at all, Mel? Or did you want to speak to this one at all? Okay. Amy, would you move new business E1 for us?
Resolution 03-26-24-03 of the members of the County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency to approve an LTEC CRC loan to Tim and Edmund.
Do we have a second? Gary Henry votes aye. Dan Hetzenrader. Aye. Sagan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Amy Harding. Tom Hart.
Aye.
The resolution has been unanimous. Next, we'll move into new business F, Excelco Newbrook Inc., presented by Christine.
Mr. Chairman, and Chris, in just a few minutes, I'll introduce you. We have Chris Lansky with us today from Excelco Newbrook. Joining us by Zoom. Excelco Newbrook Inc., also known as ENI, is located in the village of Silver Creek, town of Hanover, and has requested working capital financing from CCIDA. ENI is owned by Christopher Lansky, president, who has been with the company for over 30 years and purchased it over a decade ago. Excelco Newbrook specializes in building complex mechanical equipment, prototype components, and low-volume production runs, specialized equipment for undersea naval and nuclear applications. ENI is currently expanding its workforce, acquiring additional equipment, and making process improvements to utilize advanced manufacturing technology to support growth. Presently, $100,000 working capital financing is requested to fund increased work in process inventory materials and supplies for increased production, and to provide contract financing for 2 major. 4 jobs will be repeat and 6 new jobs are projected. A full detailed application and supporting documents were provided in today's meeting materials, and also reviewed by the loan committee in connection with the meeting by Chris and consultant Dale here at TRG Consulting, March 14th loan committee meeting. Minutes of the meeting were included in today's document. As I mentioned, Chris is available to attend today by Zoom. And I'll turn it over to you, Chris. A brief overview regarding your request.
Okay, well, Ian and I went through some very challenging times during and after COVID-19, and we really drastically reduced our staffing and reorganized under a more efficient model and focused on core competencies and profit margins. And we also overhauled our ISO quality system and moved to the aerospace standard AS9100, developed many lean processes and targeted new customers and built up our backlog again. So throughout 2023, we were able to reach full production by accelerating our two large contracts that we had at the time. However, our progress was interrupted by customer changes, and it delayed production for almost 3 months in December, January, and February. And as a result, we've had a difficult time backfilling revenue and cash. But today we have a large backlog. We've won some more orders, and our work will last us well into 2026. And now our customer base is very diversified. The IDA loan that we're requesting will support or supplement our working capital to get things back on track as we invest in materials, supplies, and to get a vertical turning multi-axis machine that we bought up and running. And it's a large machine weighing 77,000 pounds, and it's scheduled for delivery on April 5th. By May, we expect to have the new orders that we've just booked released for production and the machine running in June. We've already hired a few machinists in anticipation of that, and we're going to expect a couple more that we'll hire from students that are available during the summer that are graduating from the technology programs. And then we'll hire 2 more in the fall as we continue to expand our capacity and production volume. I want to thank you for considering our loan application. These funds are a critical element necessary for us to execute our 2024 operating plan, and they set us up for future success. So I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Chris. The loan committee recommended approval by the CCIDA Board of Directors, the $100,000 working capital loan at a rate of 4% for 5 years. In your package, you received a copy of the resolution, and subsequent to that, Lisa Cole and Millen Tyler helped us articulate some of the language regarding guarantors in the resolution.
Right, it turns out that there's 2 related entities, Chautauqua Equipment and Chautauqua Realty, that have an interest in the real property that's being pledged. So we've added that to the resolution. And in order to have them pledge assets for this loan, they have to be a guarantor. So in addition, they're going to be a limited guarantor. It's really Chris Lansky who's giving the unlimited personal guarantee. But these 2 entities are going to give a guarantee limited to their interest in the property that they're pledging. That's the only sort of clarification in terms of resolution, but it's still the same basic $100,000.
Are there any questions of Chris before I review the collateral? So again, the loan request is in the amount of $100,000. Loan terms are 5 years at 4% interest with principal and interest payments made monthly. The loan would be secured by subordinate lien position on all business assets by Selco Newbrook Inc., Chautauqua Realty Associates LLC, and Chautauqua Equipment LLC. Chautauqua Realty Associates and Chautauqua Equipment would be the limited guarantors that Millen mentioned. This lien position would include but not be limited to furniture, fixtures, machinery, equipment, inventory, and accounts receivable behind the bank. Southern Tier Enterprise Development Organization, also known as the CCIDA's existing. It also include a subordinate lien assignment of leases and rents by the borrower and the limited guarantors behind the bank, and CCIDA's existing assignment. Additionally, the unlimited personal guarantee, Christopher J. Lansky, Man Life Insurance, Life of Lansky, in the amount of the loan. The limited guarantors guarantee limited to the pledge of the fund above and has $5 million.
Thank you. Do we have any additional questions from the board?
Have a real quick comment. Our loan committee spent a lot of time asking questions and talking through the project. And Dale Gear was there. If you don't know, an expert, you should see processes, reducing waste and all of that stuff. So it was really great to hear that Chris was working with Dale. And you know, I know how hard Chris has worked there and met with him many times. You know, he's got a great business. He's put a lot of his own sweat and financial equity into the business. So I feel very strongly that, you know, with his hard work and with all the backlog and the contracts he has, that this will be wholehearted.
Would you move new business F2 for us?
We will, resolution 03-6-24 to approve an LTEC EDA CARES Act and for Chautauqua revolving loan. Fund loan for Excelco.
You have a second?
Second.
Dan? Terry Henry votes aye. Dan Hudson-Rager?
Aye.
Sagan Sheffield Smith? Stephen Thorpe?
Aye.
Amy Harding?
Aye.
Tom Harmon?
Aye.
And the resolution is unanimously approved. And so certainly this is a great loan and look forward to hearing from Chris as the business continues to grow and continues to expand and looking forward to good things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move into new business G, Wicked Jimmy LLC, presented by Carol.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Robert Brock could not be with us today, is owner of Wicked Warrens in Warren, Pennsylvania. He's already familiar with the craft brewery. And actually, he was present in a board meeting on January. He gave an overview of the project, and this is when we did approve an LTEC loan for him. So this is a favorable project for downtown Jamestown. The building had empty for quite a while. But in order to complete this project, he has given us an application pilot tax, help him with some of the incentives. The project cost, I'll just say, is $2,344,999. With this pilot, he'll have a savings of $243,044. The assessment of the building is $1.3 million. Let's see, he has asked the existing taxes are $58,830,000. In this resolution, he'll have a tax savings of $60,124. It'll end up in a DV on a set amount of taxes for 10 years in the pilot application. It also asks for mortgage recording, which is approximately $23,250 in incentive savings. And he's asked for the sales tax waiver. That will amount to $60,124. You know, he's gonna do a little bit of renovation there. Got his staff on board, and I will say that he would like to start late spring, early summer. He's ready to go. And then I'll turn it over to Millen. Do you want to explain the resolution?
this is.
And March, you have a question.
Sorry, again, the same due diligence resolution, authorizing, instructing staff and council to start doing the various due diligence, including the public hearing, determination of deviation, secra, et cetera. I'll note that this is a little bit more complicated because there's an existing entity and with lots of debt, so he has to sort of, focus on his own debt, transition from one to another. So it's a hair more complicated. The one thing I would like to point out, I found a typo in your resolution. In the fourth whereas clause on page 3, item C says, the project facility will not constitute a facility where there's retail sales of goods or services. Of course, this is entirely retail sales. So in the final, I'm going to take the word not out. And I want to draw attention to the fact that if a project has more than 1/3 of its costs devoted to retail sales of goods and services, the IGA can't do the project unless it falls into one of the exceptions. One of the exceptions is a tourism facility, whether or not it's likely to draw a significant number of visitors from outside the economic development area. Because Jimmy's has a brewery brew pub in Pennsylvania, and while we're going to still do some due diligence, we think that it's probably very likely that this will fall into that exception. So that'll be one more thing that we talk about when and if we come to the final resolution. So I'm going to fix that typo, but that is one of the few things that differentiates this from most of the projects that you do. This will be clearly retail sales. There's some other exceptions, but I think tourism destination is likely to be one that this falls into. So with that, it's a otherwise sort of standard due diligence resolution, doesn't commit you to anything. And when and if we get done with all of the due diligence, we'll bring it back to you. As Carol mentioned, I think they're very eager to start work by the springs, probably / summer. So this may be on an accelerated time frame.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Ian, would you move business G1 for us?
Yes, resolution 03-26-24-05, due diligence resolution and preliminary agreement with Wicked Jimmy LLC.
Do we have a second?
Okay.
Thank you. Gary Henry votes aye. Dan Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Megan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Amy Harding.
Aye.
Tom Harmon.
Aye.
The resolution is unanimously approved. Glad to keep seeing this move forward and it can lead it. New business H is housekeeping resolution presented by Harris Week.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before the board today is a housekeeping resolution. The governance committee has met just prior to this meeting and viewed this resolution. The meat of the resolution is really its attachments. I'll take them a little bit out of order, but there's 4 act items. First, move our resolution of items this board's going to have to approve of certain administrative matters, details of each of the resolution identifies those options. Approving all of this that were September, October last year. The bylaws, charters, various policies, corporation were all statutorily required. And a lot of times prior year, that was the first time or amending. Thought it was the best practice to approve today in March. Do it once a year. March will be the time because it's a lot of important act items that have to take care of March 31st of the year. And moving policy. We're reapproving them. Nothing's changed since you went through all. Probably rerouting has no good. No change. The last piece of attachment B here is the emission statements of the 3 corporations. You're gonna be asked to approve this resolution 3 times once we approve it all here. For you as well. Attachment, I'll say for last. Attachment C is your meeting schedule for the 2024 calendar year. Really, the gut resolution is the New York State Public Authority law. Rich, and that's how it walk you through that report. The annual report is every year required by public authority laws. It's for March 31st. You can go to the authority budget office webpage. Every IDA and public corporation, state authority, all the exact same report. And there's very detailed information. It takes a lot of staff time and effort. I've spent a lot of time. There actually is some useful information. Never slow down. It's fascinating. See what other ideas. Doing very, very good work. This idea is doing all detail there. Good work.
Your mouth, God's there.
So if you're okay, Mr. Chairman, I think Rich and really you want to kind of walk through the.
Yeah, if we call that up on the screen, I spoke a lot about it at the governance committee meeting. Julie, why don't you just walk through it for us? Overview.
Okay. So we've done this report for the IDA as well as CREDC and the Capital Resource Corp. Just gives an overview of the agency's governance, asks about policies that are in place. If you want to go to the next page. Again, looking at governance and policies and that they're posted to the website. Go to the next page. And this lists all of the board members, their appointment dates, whether they have completed or whether you have completed your required training and the annual fiduciary duty statement. So you can keep going. There you go. It lists all of the staff and salaries. You can go ahead. And any benefits that board members may receive. And a little further down, it lists staff members and any benefits that they may receive. Let's see, this asks if there's any subsidiary or component units of the IDA. There are none. Okay, this is the summary financial statement. It really takes the financials that your auditors presented earlier this morning and puts them into a really concise summary for the State Authority Budget Office. And all of the numbers that are in here are taken directly from the audit, and everything ties back to that. You want to keep going? Okay. Keep going. This asks if there's any outstanding debt that the IDA has. There's conduit debt that the agency's issued. And if you move forward to the next page, this lists the current outstanding debt, any debt that's been retired during the reporting year, and then the balances. Again, this information really comes from two places, that being the annual compliance reports that are given to or requested from your active projects, and then it ties back into your audit report. Okay, this lists property acquisitions and disposals. Rich, you want to jump in on these properties?
We had sold Talcott Street and we grabbed some property out of the county auction that the Connect Gen was interested in. We were a pass-through middleman there, so we have to report that to them. How we sold it, what we sold it for. All in.
Thanks. Okay. This says that the agency did not dispose of any personal property during the reporting period. Pretty straightforward. And then it asks about if there's property acquisition and disposal guidelines. There are, and they're posted to your website. And the balance of this 75-page report lists all of the active projects. It lists any sales tax exemptions, mortgage recording tax exemptions, and pilots that companies are receiving benefit. And then we list the number of current jobs and any construction jobs that may have occurred during the reporting year. You have 51 active projects, and it was a huge undertaking for Kayla and Rich to get the information back from the company so that we were able to complete this report. There's just a couple of additional pieces of jobs information that needs to be added to the report, but this will be done by the end of the week for a submittal by the March 31st deadline. Not sure that you want to go through each and every single project, but certainly between Rich, Kayla, and myself, we can answer questions.
By the way, lunch is in the outer room. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, Mark would like to do that. No, I'm kidding.
I knew that.
Spend a half hour each one. Yeah, a minute each. That's it.
That's the 30,000 foot review. And know that this was done again for the IDA, and we did it for the other two entities as well. So significant amount of time and work going into this, but certainly we'll get you submitted by March 31st deadline.
The resolution caption. Submit by Thursday.
I'm gonna go ahead and read the resolution. Resolution 03-26-24-06, approving certain appointments and administrative matters in the annual reporting of the County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency according to the New York Public Authority laws. I had that page marked in their packet, but you all have that information. We have a second of that motion.
Second.
Dan, go ahead and vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Ann Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Megan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Amy Harding.
Aye.
Tom Harmon.
Aye.
And the resolution is unanimously approved. Obviously, that was a huge amount of information, parish report to all the different policies that we've approved again. And just thank you to Harris Beach, Julie and Bob, and all the team on the IDA. Just tremendous amount of work. So thank you. We have an executive report.
You know what, I was just gonna talk about a couple of things real quick, and I won't take more than probably 3 minutes. Want to give an update. Wells, the tax lease pilot is closed. Just a reminder, that's a $250 million project. They're making progress, new water line, etc. Monofracs, we assisted them, both was involved in this, Rich and I, with a railroad grant for a little over $1 million. We met with them last week with the county executive, talked through the project and their other future potential projects, but it would go towards rail improvements there, which, they bring in a lot of stuff, a lot of raw materials that are heavy and by rail, so this will help them. We received over 100,000 solar glasses that all the project managers have distributed to all of our businesses, and it's been a huge undertaking. I really kudos to the project manager. Amazing how they're getting those out. Obviously, those were glasses that were purchased by the county, and we've made them available. And it's been a nice thing because we've been able to sort of tie that in with a, touching the gloves kind of thing with the business owners. To be able to say, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Any challenges, etc. Ripley Phase 1 vertical development required 45 acres. That's a 17 million plus project. We have about a little over 13 million secured. I was in Washington 2 weeks ago, met with all the powers to be, and I sat next to Schumer, and he said, yep, this is going to be my budget request this year. We'll get it this year, because it was in last year and he was surprised he didn't get it, but we're asking them for $3 million. But we're also going after funding from ARC. We got a Southern Tier West grant that's pending right now for $1 million. We're going to do an EDA grant application. We're working with McAllister and Quinn on that. So we'll keep plugging away until we get it done. New website, ton of effort, ton of work.
And Jason Sample has been leading the way on that. We've all had a part, obviously, but Clever Method has been our consultant. We're really excited about it. It's gonna be released on Thursday or tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Yeah, there's a date tomorrow.
End of the day tomorrow. It's gonna go live. So if you find anything, call Jason. But it's, you know, it's been, and it sort of has two tracks, right? It's got the business development track, which is really the true Chautauqua, and then it's got the Live Chautauqua, which is really more about quality of life and, you know, a campaign. And so we're really excited about that, and it's going to conform, I think, much better to the ABO requirements. Our old site wasn't really set up that way, and it was old and clunky, and this one is really really slick, and it's going to be more transparent, et cetera. You know, the last thing I wanted to say real quick is our staff dedication. You know, man, all the work that we do, it's really actually astounding what our staff does between, you know, I talked about the solar glass, but all the work that they do on all these projects and all the ABO stuff that we have done and all the audit stuff and I mean, the business assistants and all the different meetings, board meetings, all the prep for that. I mean, everyone really knocks it out of the park. So I'm really proud and wanted to just call that out because it's been a lot, you know. That's all I have for now.
Thank you. We have a treasurer's report beyond the audit.
No.
Okay, so, I mean, we've got the audited, bill report that we went over, so that's pretty much our treasurer's report. At this point, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the financial or credit history of a particular person or corporation. In particular, I would like to discuss the status of our loan portfolio and the financial and credit status of some of our borrowers, as well as some CCIDA personnel. I believe that discussing this in open session would substantially affect the value. Do I hear such a motion? Megan, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Give them a second to turn off the live stream. We'll be in executive